Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's ICARE webinar. During this webinar, we will be going into a ICARE test training site directly and going over the modules with everyone. This webinar is sponsored by the Chicago Department of Public Health, and we are joined today by Dan Ferrazzano from CDPH, who will be going over the vaccines ordering module with us later. Before we begin, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping items. Participant phone lines are muted. This webinar is being recorded. If you have any questions for us during the webinar, please enter them into the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the webinar. Afterwards, everyone will receive an email with a link to view today's recorded webinar, as well as a PDF of the PowerPoint slides. Okay, so today's learning objectives. We're going to review how to obtain an ICARE login, review and share ICARE personnel and support contact information, review the ICARE registry functions and features, and review the ICARE vaccine ordering module. So I'm sure, well, maybe not, but a lot of people get questions from their patients about how secure and confidential the ICARE registry is. Well, you can safely tell them that ICARE is designed to protect patient confidentiality while providing access to a statewide registry information. Only registered ICARE users have access to the patient records, and all passwords expire in 90 days. This is the ICARE user agreement. It's a bit long. You guys can go over it in more detail later. I'm just going to highlight two of the more important ones. And one of the most important ones is that you cannot give your user ID or password to any other individual. So if more than one of you in your clinic use ICARE, each of you must obtain your own individual user ID or password. And the second one is that I understand that I will be required to change my password periodically. Periodically means every 90 days. So please remember to change your password every 90 days, because if you forget, then ICARE will lock you out of the system. There's a number that you will have to call, and we'll go over that later on in the webinar. So opt-out. Opt-out is essentially a bill that was signed by Governor Quinn in 2011 that makes it so if an individual parent or legal guardian does not want their immunization information saved in the ICARE registry, they will fill out a opt-out of registry form. Choosing to opt out of the registry will make it more challenging for your healthcare provider to remind you of upcoming and overdue immunizations. So we generally recommend that patients don't opt out, but it is also good to let them know that there is an option if they wish for them to opt out of the registry. This is the ICARE contact information. The first bullet point is that phone number that I mentioned briefly earlier about if you ever get locked out of ICARE. They're really quick. It's a real live human being on the line, so very speedy and fast to get your password reset for that. If you have any general questions, this number is for the CDPH Vaccine Management Unit, and that's 312-746-5385. You can also email chicagovfc@cityofchicago.org, and if you ever have any type of EMR connectivity support, you would need to contact IDPH's department for that directly. So don't contact CDPH about it. They won't really be able to help you as much as this dph.hl7icare@illinois.gov email would be able to. You guys are getting a copy of the slides, so if you didn't copy this down, then rest assured it will be coming to you soon. So how do you obtain an ICARE user login? You complete the online web portal and create a login with ICARE. This is the registration link for that. You fill it out and then you wait for IDPH to email you back with further instruction. Just to let everybody know, ICARE registration can take up to 6 weeks. So definitely don't save it for a last minute thing. Do it well ahead in advance. What are the requirements in order to use ICARE? You need to have Adobe Reader 7.0 and above, high-speed internet, and Internet Explorer version 10 and above. You need all of these things if you want ICARE to work to the best of its abilities and to generate any of the reports correctly. This is the ICARE website. You can enter that website in directly, or you could Google CDPH ICARE and it will be the first result that shows up on the page. Now we are going to go ahead and enter into the test site for ICARE. The username is ICAREX2 and the password would be train9118 with a capital T. It's really important that when you log into ICARE, you select DPH employee for the domain. I'm going to give everyone about a minute to go ahead and log in on their site if they wish to do so and follow along as we are going through the modules. But if you don't want to, or you have to use this just to view your webinar, we will be doing it so you can just simply follow us as we go along. Okay. Okay, so now I am going to log into the test site myself. I'm going to Google the DPH. And that is the first site that pops up. So I'm going to click it. And then I'm going to click log in. If you were creating a new username, you would go to here where it says I need to register for portal account access. So I'm going to click log in. And under domain, I'm going to select DPH employees. And then remember, if you need to change your password before your 90 days are up, you would simply check this box and then it will prompt you to change your password afterwards. So our ICARE username today for the test site is ICAREX2 and the password is train with a capital T 9118. I'm going to log on. Sometimes it takes about a minute for the website to load, so it's probably going to do that right now. So we'll just hang tight. And there we go. So I'm going to go to Applications, which is next to Home, hover over it, and then select Test Apps. Now I'm going to click on ICARE Test. So today we're going to go over most of the most important functions that everybody needs to know in ICARE. So we'll start here with the news and announcements. This is a test site, so it doesn't have anything here, but if there's anything that like IDPH needs to communicate with you, CDPH, do you guys update this too? Okay, yeah. So then also for CDPH's most updated information also will be here. And so just know that everything is there. And if you ever like think that you missed like a news or announcement before, just go here to view news and announcements archive, and then you'll still be able to view everything that was ever posted for a news and announcement. We're going to scroll down a bit, and right here on our left-hand side, we're going to see the ICARE shortcuts. So this is just like a really handy place that you can find a bunch of really important links on ICARE, so you can have the complete ICARE registration instructions here, a copy of the security and confidentiality policy, a user manual for ICARE that just kind of has, everything you could possibly want to know about ICARE. It goes really, really in depth. And then the patient opt-out form that I mentioned earlier, we have it in English and Spanish. You just click it and it downloads, and then you can print it out. An ICARE fact sheet, also in English and Spanish. Some training videos. We'll go into the training videos more later. It's a really helpful tool for if there's anybody in your office who's never used ICARE before and they just want to know how to do things. We have a bunch of helpful videos that are on there that you can definitely check out that has all the information you could possibly need. A link to the CDC Pink Book online. You would just click that. It takes you to CDC's website, and it has the entire copy of the Pink Book in web format. So now we're going to scroll back up, and you can see here, new users start here. It's a helpful little toolbar that has a bunch of things that a new user could want for information. There's a user manual again, some more information about ICARE. Once again, another link to the how-to training video, some helpful tips and tricks, and a little link to what's new in ICARE. So now we're going to scroll down a bit and go next to the toolbar, that's the drop-down that's next to news and announcements, the immunization schedules. Here we don't have any because it's the test training site, but normally there are 5 immunization schedules here. So most importantly, probably for everybody, it would be the 0 to 18 schedule, and then there's also the 0 to 18 catch-up schedule. So you can just go ahead and pull them up really quickly here once you're on a regular site and not the test site. Then these are some immunization links, just some nice, more links that go into and out of the ICARE website, like some CDC pages and some AAP pages. And then next to here, we have contacts. You can have the IDPH contact, the EMR contact, some more Chicago VFC support, and of course that password support information that anybody could want for resetting their password. And then if you did want to contact somebody directly, you can also just click this button up here that's next to help. When you click it, you don't even need to go separately to your email. It's loading. Oh, there we go. So your category, please be sure to click VFC Chicago for this and not the other things, because then otherwise Chicago won't get it. So you just put in subject and the feedback, and then you'll be able to contact VFC Chicago directly through that. Okay, now there's also this help button if you need help for anything, and then that's the logout button that we're not going to click right now because we're going to continue to go through the website. So now we're going to go to the left-hand side, and underneath home, we are going to click on patients. This is the patients module, and we're just going to review the helpful how-tos within the patients module. Okay, so this is the page that you get when you open up the patients module. Right now you see the search in button. It means that when you search for a patient, it would only look for what is in your clinic. can also click statewide. The statewide is really helpful for when you're trying to see if your patient is already within the ICARE system. I would always recommend searching for a patient through this first to make sure that there are no duplicates. And you see here that it also changes what is on that right-hand side. So this is a list of all the patients that you have in your clinic. But of course, if you have way more than 29 patients, you can go ahead and type in that patient info directly through there and then click search. So you can also, we're going to click on a patient right now actually and just go over some really quick things. So you can change the status of your patient. Say, if like something happened, they moved, so they're no longer like active in your clinic, or if they went elsewhere, or they just, some other unknown reason that they're no longer active, you can do that. And then over here, when you scroll down a bit, you see where it says opt out. You would click this button if they wanted to opt out. And then once again, you can download the opt-out form directly from here. So instead of having to scroll down, to that page each time, you can just click it from within the patient's name. So I'm actually going to go ahead and show everyone a video right now really quickly on the opt-out video. So we're going to scroll back down to the training videos. And we are going to watch the opt-out video right now. There it is. Yeah, so it pops up on a second screen. So you don't need to worry about losing the information on your ICARE site since it shows up separately.
Legislation signed by Governor Quinn in July 2011 makes Illinois an opt-out state. What this means is that patients will be added to the ICARE system by participating providers unless the patient signs the opt-out form. When a patient signs the opt-out form, they may be placed in the registry, but only the provider who entered the information will be able to see any data beyond demographics. This is similar to how unconsented patients worked before. For our example, assume that a patient came into the clinic for immunizations but does not want to be in the registry. If the clinic wants to use ICARE to print the school physical and wants to enter the patient for their use only, the first step is to enter the patient normally. First, do a search to make sure the patient does not already exist in the database. When it's not found, the Add New button will appear. Note that there is no longer a place when you're adding a patient to enter consent, because new patients always automatically go into the registry unless they sign the form. Once you save the patient view form will appear. There is a new opt-out section on the right side of the form. There is a link next to the lock icon that says, opt out this patient. If the patient has signed the opt-out form, go ahead and click on the link. The confirmation pop-up will appear. Click the Confirm Patient Opt-out button to continue. The first tab of the patient view now looks different. The yellow box at the top of the Patient tab makes it easy to see that this patient has opted out. There is also a button to reverse the opt-out labeled Rescind Opt-out. So how do other clinics see this patient? The patient will appear with a lock icon in the search results. The clinic who didn't opt out the patient will only be able to see demographic information. The patient data bar also indicates the opt-out status. If this is the patient you are looking for, you will not be able to see their data unless they sign the form to reverse their opt-out status. Once this is done, you can click on the Rescind Opt-out button. Once you confirm the rescind, The patient will be back in the registry and all information will be available. You can now see all of the tabs appear for this patient. This concludes the opt-out video.
Okay, so that is the opt-out video. You know, they're pretty brief. Some of them are longer if the topic is more complicated, but as you can see, they're super helpful. They take you through everything that you need and also give you some helpful little comments throughout. So we're going to go back to the patients module now, and we're going to go over a couple more things that are in there. Okay, so we're going to focus specifically on what you can do when you're clicked into a patient. So we're going to click on him since, you know, he's a baby, so it's more useful to pediatric clinics. And now we're going to see just the general information for him. If you want to edit anything, like, you know, say you found out some more information about them that you want to add, you would just go right there to where that pencil is and click edit. Okay, and you see here everything that has that red asterisk there, you do need to fill out with information. So one thing that I do want to go over really quickly for everybody, because we do get a lot of questions about it, is this multiple births option. This applies only, say, if the child was a twin or a triplet. So, you know, if it was the firstborn of the twins, the child would be one of two, or if it was the secondborn, then two of two, and then one of three for triplets and so forth. If it was not a twin or triplet or multiple birth, then it would simply just be one of one. So that is, you know, just some quick things that you can change in the edit patient. You can add nationality, race, language, birth state, birth country, things like that. So we're going to cancel out because we don't want to change anything right now. And now we're going to go over to the contacts tab, which is right next to patient. So this is where you can find the contact for the patient. So you can see in this case, the contact can be self. Generally, for a child that is under the age of 18, it would not be self. It would be, you know, a parent. So if you wanted to add one, like add a new contact and not just edit one, you would click right up here where there's the green plus sign and then add the contact. And on the right-hand side where it says contact, you would click the drop down and then change it to the relation that it is. So, you know, you could do parent. And then if it is the primary contact, which in this case, if it's the parent, it probably would be, you would check that. And then sometimes if it is an existing, you know, ICARE, if that person's already in ICARE and you look them up recently, you can just see them quickly in the drop-down menu just to save everyone some time, or you enter in all of the information manually. And once again, just be sure to fill out everything that has that red asterisk next to it. So that is how you add in a new contact. Here is also where you could print out some helpful reports that the patient might ask for. There's the physical that you can print out for the schools for when it's time to go back to school. And then here's also the immunization report that has a list of all of the immunizations that the child has taken. And then next we're going to go to the shots tab. This is where you can see a list of all the shots and whether or not your patient has gotten them. So we're going to scroll up a little bit. It has the vaccine name, the lot number, the date that it was received, the status of the shot, you know, if they received it on time, if it was due a bit later, if they haven't gotten it yet, it would be there. And then it also has the reporting clinic of the name of the clinic that gave the shot. So just, you know, some really helpful things for everybody to go through. So now if you want to add a new shot for the patient, you're just giving them one today, you would click on Add Shots. And this is where you can select everything that you currently have in your inventory where it says Add Shot As. If it's a current shot that you're doing today, then it would be with lots from inventory. But if you're adding in a historical shot, you would be sure to click historical to view any of the lots that aren't going to be in your inventory right now. So you would just click what date they're getting it, like today, and then say they're getting their flu shot, and then you click continue. And then this is where you can see everything, the shot date, if you want to make it a VFC shot or non-VFC, the specific vaccine that you have here, the lot number, the body site of where you put it in. This stuff for the body site and body route is optional, but it's just helpful if you want to keep all that information, and the provider for who gave the shot. Well, the provider of the patient. So, and then once you're done with all that information, you would just click Save, and that is how you add in a patient shot. Sorry, ICARE is a little bit slow today. It's not always like this. Sometimes it's a bit, oh, there we go. So say you accidentally added in the wrong shot for the patient and you're like, oh no. Well, there's no need to panic because you can always delete a shot that you added. What you would do is simply select on the shot. See, there's this little box there that you can click on. So we're going to delete the HBV. We'll click it. And then right up here, it says delete selected shots. We'll click that, and then if we're sure, we just click OK to confirm, and then it'll be gone. So you can also remove any duplicates for the shots that you did. You can once again print out the physical or immunization report from here. So that's a helpful little, thing if you are already in this module and you don't want to go back. Now we're going to go to ID numbers. Click on that tab, and this is generally just, if you needed to add something, it would be here. This patient doesn't have anything right now, but you can add in the patient ID number, like the Social Security number or Medicaid or Medicare, just something that would help you identify the patient more. You can do that. And if you click on the Appointments tab, it would just show any upcoming or past appointments based on where you kind of have your begin date here. You can scroll back to when the patient was born, and then you can see all the appointments that the patient has had since they've been with you. And then there's the additional info tab, and this is just more information for the patient that you can have, like the insurance or the schools or any type of notes that you want if patients had like the TB test or some lead reports with water and everything that's been going on. And then the last tab in patients is reports. So this is where you would be able to select everything that you would want to include for your patient for their school physical. So, if you wanted to include yourself, you could check provider, and then if you don't want to include anything, you uncheck it, and then you just click on it, and then you can print it out. And there's also a Spanish version that you can do. So just click on Spanish if you wanted the Spanish one to be clicked. So once you click on it, it opens up into a new tab. And this is one of the reasons why it's important for you to use Internet Explorer and have Adobe and all of those other things, because sometimes if you're not using the correct browser, then the reports won't load correctly. So this is just a quick sample of what a child health examination report would look like, where it has all the information of when he took the shots and things like that, and then you can add in your own comments, and then you would sign it just to provide proof that you're the one who provided it. So this is why you need Adobe, because they always open up as a PDF. So be sure that your Adobe is correct, otherwise the report might not show up in the correct way. And then when you click on it, you can type into it, so that's also nice, you know. If your handwriting is, you know, a bit messy, then everyone can read it if it's typed out. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the clinic module. So we're going to go back to the left-hand side of our screen. Underneath it says clinic. We're going to click that. And this is just like a really helpful page for your clinic itself. You know, it's not like something that you would show the patients or anything, but if you were part of a group that had multiple clinics, then you have to be sure that you click here under the drop-down menu and choose your clinic specifically. Otherwise, you're going to be viewing somebody else's site and the information will be wrong. So if you want to edit anything, just click here with the pencil for edit, and then you can change the phone number, fax number, and things like that. And then next to it, we have appointments, and this is just where you would view all of the upcoming appointments that your clinic has, and generally the EMR updates it. And then you can also pull up some reports here again for your clinic. I would just point out two really important ones would probably be the vaccine inventory analysis here, and then the inventory analysis helper are two really helpful reports for VFC. They're the two last reports under VFC reports. And then you notice all these flags that are next to certain things. That doesn't mean that there's an error. They're just flagged because it's reports that ICARE thinks is really helpful for everybody. And then here you have employees. So if you have more than one registered user for ICARE, this is where they would be listed. And then you can also add a new employee for somebody else. And then you can also search for employees next to that. Okay, now we're going to do the vaccines module. So I'm going to click on vaccines. Okay, so when you click on vaccines, you're going to see everything, a list of all the vaccines here that you have in stock at your clinic. And it also is really helpful here under the expires. It does it in color, so for red, it's the vaccines that are already expired. So this is a test site, so it's not a real clinic that has all of these expired vaccines. And then when it's orange, it means that those vaccines are going to expire soon, so it's just good to know that, you know, you should probably use those soon. And then you can also change your select view to only see your VFC lot. So that's helpful for you to know your stock just really quick, and then also you can view items that are no longer in stock. Okay, and we're just going to go over really quickly how to add in a new vaccine lot. So we're going to click here. Okay, and then you would enter in your lot number, you know, and then choose your vaccine group. We're going to do Hib vaccine. And then we're going to wait for it. And then now we're going to do, let's just do DTaP Hib. And we enter in the expiration date. Just choose something randomly for now. And then the lot status. And then everything else down here is just optional information. I would probably include the quantity though. And then once you're done with that, you just click Save. I'm going to go back to in stock. And then once you do that, oh, and then you can also sort it by number and things like that. So if you're looking for something specifically, then you can find it. And there we go. We see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I added. And like I mentioned earlier, they kind of like color code things, you know, if they're going to expire soon. So since this one expires in 4 months, they have it highlighted like an orangish gold, so you kind of know. So these are the transactions, so you kind of have like a general list of anything that you've done within the vaccine lots. And now we're going to go to the temperature log next to it. And this is a really helpful list of all of the freezers and refrigerators that your clinic has. And remember, you should be entering these in twice a day. And then I'll show you how to edit a temperature log right now. So we're going to click Edit. And now we can enter in the temperature for each one, for the dates, you know, if you missed them, and then the initials of who did it, and then the time. So 1 in the morning and then 1 at night. So be sure if you have more than one appliance to click Next Appliance to enter it in for your next appliance. So you can keep scrolling through for that, and then you can click Save when you're done. And if you need to look at your backup thermometer, you would click here where it says Appliances and Backup Thermometer, and then you'll be able to view all of that. And then this is also where you would add an appliance. So you click that to add it. You can name it, because if you have more than one, then it might be complicated to know what's what. Specify if it's a freezer or refrigerator, the type of unit, temperature scale, and if it's active or not. And if it's used for VFC or not, if it has a data logger, and if its thermometer is certified calibrated. So that's just all the information that you would need. Okay, now we're going to go over the ordering module, and Dan is going to take over for that.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for the ICARE webinar. So I'm just going to cover the ordering module, which is really what's new for the Chicago VFC program, that we are requiring all providers to order vaccines through ICARE versus vaccine orders. So just a few things first. When you're coming to the orders module here, we are in the test site, so you in the live site, if it's your first time placing an order, you may get something that's called an activation checklist pop up instead of this screen here on the orders page. And if you get an activation checklist that pops up, that just means there's a few things you need to do before you can go ahead and start placing orders. So for example, it might be that you need to make sure your inventory matches what's in your freezers, or it might be that you need to add in your temperature logs. Those are generally the two big things that come up on the activation checklist. But there is also a training video on that, on the checklist, if you have any issues with any of the steps going through that checklist that you can watch to help you through that. But once that is complete, you will come to an orders page that is just like this, where you will be able to see the date of the previous orders you've placed, the status of those orders, the status date, so that's the date that the status changed. So you can see here, this first order here was requested on April 30th, 2015. The second one was requested on May 27, 2015, but approved also the same day on May 27, 2015. But going across, you can also see the type of order, and then also summary of the order, how many vaccines, how many doses. If you want to see the order in depth, you just click on the date of the order. And on here, it'll bring up that order, what vaccines are in there. So you can see right here, they just ordered Fluzone. Now, just to note, for the Chicago VFC program, the flu vaccines are not going to be ordered through ICARE. Every other vaccine is ordered through ICARE, but flu vaccine is ordered through a pre-book that went out a little while ago before the flu season started. So if you haven't heard anything about that, or if you're trying to get flu vaccines for your site, if you don't have any yet, just get in contact with us. But that's not ordered through ICARE. That's ordered separately. I'm just going to cancel out this order here. But now on to how do you place your order once you're on this module. So you saw all the steps, what this list here means and all that. But how do you add a new order? All you need to do is go up here to where it says Add New Order. Click on this, and it brings up the Add New Vaccine Order page. First thing you want to do before you go ahead and place an order is you want to make sure that your information up top is correct, especially if you work for a site that you have access to multiple clinics. You want to make sure that you're not ordering for the wrong site. So you'll see your clinic name appear up here. Make sure it's the right clinic name. If it's not, you can click on it and you can change over to another clinic that you have access to and order for that clinic. You also want to make sure the address is correct. I know sometimes your clinic moves, so you want to make sure that that's correct because this is the address the vaccines will be shipped to once you place the order. So you don't want your vaccines going to the wrong address. But once you verify that information, you can scroll down to this drop-down list here. And this drop-down list is where you can begin selecting the vaccines that you would like to order for the program. So I'm just, for example, here I'm going to select Gardasil. I know now it's Gardasil 9, but we're in the test site here. And then you're going to enter in over here the doses that you wish to order for your site. So I'm just going to put in 50 here for an example. Now you'll notice here, once I selected Gardasil that I want to order, a new blank drop-down appeared underneath this. This is where I'm going to add in additional vaccines that I wish to order. Usually when you order, you're going to be ordering more than one vaccine at a time. So you just click on that blank drop-down list and you select the second vaccine that you'd like to order. And it's going to load into the box here your current inventory and doses used. And you're going to enter how many you would like to order. All orders come in quantities of the packaging it comes in. So for most vaccine, that's quantities of 10. So you can order in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. For a few vaccines, they come in boxes of 5. If you're ever not sure of what the packaging is that it comes in, you can always click on this plus sign and it tells you what packaging that box comes in, and you can select that. And you'll know then what the size of the box is. Real quickly here, one thing you want to verify here before you place an order. For the VFC program to approve an order, they need to see how many doses you've used versus how many you have on hand and how many you're requesting. So now for this order, for example, right now I'm requesting Gardasil and I'm asking for 50 doses when I already have 63 on hand, and I'm telling the VFC program that I haven't used any since this order date of July 5th, 2016. I can tell you right away that order won't be approved, so you wouldn't have reasoning as to why that inventory is off there. You want to make sure that you need to record all your doses used in ICARE, and that needs to be recorded here in order for us to approve an order. You'll see the second vaccine I selected, Prevnar 13, says I have no inventory of it and I never used any, and that could be fine if you've never used Prevnar 13 at your site before, but you just want to make sure that if you have been using it, that you do have that inventory in there so it can be approved. Otherwise, it's just going to be put back and review your order, and you're going to be asked to follow up with your inventory and make sure that everything matches in your inventory before you can go ahead and get that order approved. So please do make sure you put all your vaccines in these order drop-down boxes. Don't create a separate order for each vaccine. They do all need to go into one order form, one virtual online order form, that is. But then scrolling down, here under requirements, if you want to view your vaccine accountability, to see your doses administered and doses on hand report for all your vaccines in inventory, you can click on this. It'll bring up a PDF of your inventory report. The second requirement here is it will bring up another PDF of your temperature logs. If you just want to check that real quick before submitting the order, because make sure they are in, your temperature logs are in before you request the order, because once you request the order, the temperature logs lock and you won't be able to update any prior temperature dates prior to that order that you placed. The third requirement is your delivery hours. This will save from your previous order, but if it's your first time ordering in ICARE, you definitely want to click on this and update your delivery hours to make sure that there's actually someone going to be at your clinic at the time that the vaccines are delivered to you. And once this loads in, this is the same format as on the order form that you used to fax in to request vaccines. You have your open and close time. If you have a break for lunch or any break during the day, you can include that in here. So you can see Monday, this clinic opens at 9 a.m., closes at 12 p.m., probably for lunch, and then reopens again at 1 p.m., and then closes for the day at 6 p.m. If you don't have a break in the day and you could receive vaccines all throughout the day, then you can just use the first two boxes and say you open at 9 a.m. and close at 5 p.m. Once you create this, it'll save for all subsequent orders, but you do just want to verify that that's correct just to make sure you don't run into a situation where vaccines come when you're not at the office and able to receive them. Below this, there's a box for delivery instructions. This might be if there's day coming up when all your staff won't be available, let's say next Monday, even though you're normally open on Mondays, your office is going to be closed for some reason, you could mark that, you can note that in the delivery instructions field here. Second box here, the status comment box. This is for any comment you may have for the VFC program, questions. Perhaps one big reason you might be putting a comment in here is if it's back to school season and you're ordering extra doses because you see a higher demand coming. Then you can put in the status comment section here that you're requesting extra doses because you're expecting a higher volume in the coming days or months. Once you've filled out all this information, you're going to come down to the bottom here. You see here on the test site, you have two options, save and cancel. In the live site, there are three options. There's going to be save, change status, and then cancel. If you just click save, that's fine if you want to come back to the order, but that just creates a draft and does not submit anything for processing to the Chicago VFC program. So let's say you came in here, you did your order and saw your inventory was off and you want to go back to your inventory and fix it, then you can click save and create a draft and then come back to this order so you don't have to redo it another time. You can just come back to the same order that you created. Cancel, if I just want to discard all this information, it won't save anything. But on the live site, you're also going to see a change status button. And that's where you're going to want to click on that change status button and change the status to requested from draft status. And that will submit the order to the Chicago VFC program for approval. Each time, once the VFC program receives the order, they'll review it. And either they're going to approve the order if everything looks good, or they're going to put it back in review. If the order's in a review, you'll get a notification about it, but if you ever don't hear anything about your order, you can always log back into ICARE and see the status of your order, and if it's in review, you can click on it, and there will always be a comment as to why it's in review and what the next steps are they need to take in order to get that order changed from review to approved so you can get that delivered to your site. If you're not getting email notifications, let us know. It's probably because the contact information isn't up to date in ICARE, which can happen as there's turnover. So just make sure you get us the correct contact information in ICARE. You can even edit that yourself when you go to the clinics page and you go to edit, and you can update your email address and all that so you get those email notifications when you place orders. But with that, that is everything for the ordering module. So if you have questions, you can leave a question in the question box, but I'll turn it back over to Anne for the rest of the presentation. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that, Dan. So we're going to continue through our vaccines module right now, and we're going to click on the VIS tab. So this is where you can find all of the most up-to-date VIS statements to hand up to your patient before you give them the vaccine. So you would just click on it, and then it would just link you directly to the page where you can then print it out. Next, the reports tab, and this is just another way, one of the many ways that you can get to the ICARE reports that are offered. So once again, like having a flag there doesn't mean there's something wrong. It's just the tabs that ICARE deems kind of important and things like that. So that concludes the vaccines module, and we are going to move on to the reports module. So this is just another way for you to get to those ICARE reports that can be pulled up. So, just scroll through them, see what reports you need, click on it, and then they will be pulled up for you. And then if you click on results, it's just a list of any of the reports that you have pulled up in the past, and you can click on it so you can see exactly what it looks like at that given time. And then next we can click on settings, and this is where you can edit your defaults for how you want your reports or patient information to look like. So we'll go ahead and look through that real quick. Okay, so here you can change how big or small you want your text size, how many recent patients you want to see in that place, when you search your address, what states you want, the maximum of the records, and then the miles from your site for the search, and then just what your default clinic is. You can change that here who the default provider is, and then the default vaccinator. And then here you can change what's included in the school physicals when they're printed out, but just be aware that when you change it here, it changes it for all of the school physicals that you print out. So be sure you're clicking or unclicking the things that you want to be on all of those. And then just some more settings for your immunization reports, the shot history, and then when you add to patient list, if it asks you before it does that, and then how you want the provider and vaccinator list to be sorted, either by group or by clinic, and then also how you want your shot lot sorting to be, so either by lot number or expiration number. So a lot of things you can kind of mess with, or, I mean, don't mess with it, but a lot of things for how you can view things differently. And then you can also clear your recent patients list, so, you know, if you feel like you're done with seeing all the same recent patients, you can just clear that and the list will be completely emptied out. So that is about it for ICARE. You know, that's generally most of the things that you guys will be having interaction with. And, you know, if you have any questions, we can definitely take them now if you guys entered them. So it looks like we do have a question right now. We have not started putting patients in. How do we record shots given manually after the reconcile button is no longer available? So we did go through that earlier in the webinar, so I'll just show you guys real quick right now. Again, you would click on vaccines. No, wait, just kidding. The patient. And then we'll go to Nawaz Ali. We'll click him. We'll go to the shots tab. And then you can click add shot. So you would have to click on your historical inventory. So the way that works is be sure you don't have current clicked, that you have historical clicked. So you can enter in the lot number manually rather than choosing it from the drop-down box. So that is how you would do that. Okay, are there any other questions at all? And remember that when we're asking the questions, you can just type them in manually on that right-hand side of your screen. I'll just give it about another minute. And of course, if, you know, anybody does have any questions after the webinar is over that you think of that you didn't think of right now, you can always contact CDPH and the VFC team directly, and they will always try to answer your questions to the best of their ability. And also, I know I've mentioned it a bunch of times, but I just want to reiterate that the how-to videos are super helpful in getting a new user acclimated to ICARE. If you watch those videos, you can pretty much guarantee that you'll know almost all of the ins and outs of ICARE. So it looks like we don't have any additional questions for today, so just wanted to thank everyone for joining us for today's webinar. We hope that you now feel more comfortable using ICARE, and that if you do have any additional questions, feel free to contact any of us, and we will always try to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So thanks again, and I hope that everybody has a great afternoon. Thank you.